product. They liked having the access point. I got to the shop, I'm locking everything up and putting all the product back in the vault. And I look outside and here's this taxi. And out stands this little old woman. She was in her 80s. She had a cane. She was having trouble getting out of the taxi. And she's walking up gingerly to the door, and she sees closed by court order. And she just sat there, stared in awe, like, what am I going to do? This is what I need. Elderly people are looking for an alternative to pharmaceuticals that they don't think are good for them, and they can't afford them. And this poor old lady, the city council just told her to stick it.
Today's interview is a story of perseverance, community support, and paving the way for new industry in our area. We welcome Matt Plemmons of Greenfield to discuss his venture into the world of cannabis. Matt's vision for safe and accessible cannabis in Clarkston was stifled many times while facing the stonewall of a county moratorium. It's only through the support of the community that his business was able to open. In addition to overcoming legal hurdles, Matt has also been instrumental in educating the city council and consumers respectively about cannabis. And now OSP would like to give a special shout out to Kat at Greenfield on behalf of Matt. Kat is the manager of Greenfield. She is the heart and soul of Greenfield Cannabis and oversees a lot of glass and goods as well. Matt absolutely loves her. She works tirelessly every day, and without her, Greenfield would not be the company that it is. For more on this story, stay tuned after a brief breakdown of this weekend's events.
All right, we have a lot of events happening this weekend, and don't forget that this weekend we have a leap day. It is a leap year, and you have one whole extra day to live your life. So why don't you get on out there, go do something. There's a lot of fun things happening. We'll get to what's happening on your leap day, your extra day, the year, in just a second. But on Friday, the 28th, if you really want to, you can come see me play at Pareja Cellars at 7 p.m. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been there in a while, so come on out. They have great wine. You can bring in food, appetizers if you want. They're fun to talk to. It's an awesome place. We also have the YWCA Support Our Shelters event at 11 a.m. in Lewiston. And if you're not able to make it to the Y, you can also be a part of the event at Art Uncorked at 12. Also, Friday, monthly meeting at Zany's. Welcome the women motorcycle enthusiasts, and that starts at 7. After that, you can head down to Jolly Moore's in Lewiston and catch Shania Raleigh at 8:30. And if you're looking to get out of the valley, Lionel Hampton Jazz Festival is going on this weekend at the U of I, so head up the hill and check that out. Now, to your extra day, Saturday, February 29th. And I just want to say real quick, happy birthday to all you leap year people out there. I want to give you some special love. Always a minor, never, I don't know. But it's really cool if you have a birthday today. We had an episode a few weeks ago with Drew telling us all about fly fishing. And this weekend on Saturday, you can head up to the North 40 at 11 a.m. They're talking about how to target trophy rainbow trout. So go get some tips on trout fishing this Saturday. At the Moscow Library, again out of town for this one, they're having a community seed swap from 11 to 1. So go up there and plan your garden. That's coming right around the corner. It's never too early to prepare for gardening season. And you can probably start now if you've got a greenhouse. The winter CMS sensory showing of Babe is happening at the Lewiston Village Center theaters at 10:30 a.m. So that's very cool. They're having a sensory showing, and Babe is great. That'll do, Drew. Also, you don't want to miss it. It's Lewiston Brewfest at the Nez Perce County Fairgrounds at 2 p.m. That is always a very popular event. Go out and try local and regional beers of all varieties. And then, after Brewfest, go on down to Hogan's, and they're having a great trio, some of the best musicians that this valley has produced. We've got Eric Bowen, Hagen, and Jaraki. They're all very, very talented, and it starts at 10 p.m. and that's at Hogan's. So just go on down, and you got to have a great day this Saturday. Live your life, fill up that extra day, and thanks for listening. Enjoy the show. Today we have Matt Plemmons in the studio. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks
Matt,
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt owns Greenfield Cannabis. You're the owner and founder. And then we were just talking about this, but you also own the cigar shop and Greenfield Glass Company, right?
That's right. Yep, I do. In fact, I should mention Aaron Tatum. He's a co-owner of the pot shop, and he owns a smaller percentage of it, and he's a half owner of the glass shop.
Okay.
Nice.
Aaron Tatum.
Aaron Tatum. He's a Seattle guy originally. Great designer. Had a design company over in Seattle, and we made friends there years ago, and we came together.
And you spent some time in Western Washington before you moved back to the Valley, right?
I did.
To start Greenfield?
I was there for 8 years in West Seattle. Did a lot of different things. One of them happened to be getting into the medical cannabis arena back in, I think it was 2010 or 11. 2011, I think it was.
When did cannabis become medical in Washington?
Oh, well, I couldn't zero that down to an actual date, but there was a gray market all the way back into the 90s. They were turning a blind eye to it as far as law enforcement and letting medical patients have access to it to some degree. And it just kept on along that line and growing and growing and growing until we got into the 2012 era, when it had really heated up at that point, from probably 2005 until 2011, when the signatures were getting collected and getting onto the ballot, and working with the ACLU as far as architecting it, all that stuff.
I know in 2011, my roommate had a caregiver license, and he grew a few plants for a Vietnam vet that lived down the road. And that was in 2011, but I don't know exactly how legal that was.
Like I said, it was the gray market, and that was allowed to flourish for a few years, probably from that 2005 until the 2012 when we had the vote. And they had a structure for it. It was unregulated, but it basically said if you have an authorization or a recommendation from a doctor, you could grow up to 15 plants, and if you didn't know how to do it, you get with somebody who could. As long as they had your documentation on site, they could grow the plants for you. And you could have collectives, and basically, you could have unlimited amount of patient authorizations and grow thousands of plants under one canopy at that point.
So you were doing all this in Seattle at the time?
I was working with a couple of guys who started a company called Washington Alternative Medicine. That was Brandon Hamilton and Dax Caldwell. And they asked me to come on board and be part of it from a real estate angle, because I had worked in the real estate industry over there, and they were looking for a place to have a medical access point, a dispensary. So we worked on that a little bit, and then they decided, instead of doing the dispensary, they had seen all these other dispensaries start to pop up around Seattle back then. That was like 2010-ish. They decided they wanted to manufacture the goods, grow, process oils, and then supply those to the dispensaries for the patients. Those guys had a falling out. I had a falling out because Brandon, he pissed us both off. And so Brandon ended up taking Washington Alternative Medicine, or WHAM as we know it now, WHAM oil. It still exists today, and they do fantastic products. He took that. Dax went on to create a company called Dama, which became one of the preeminent companies in the medical market. And I just kind of hung back with Aaron Tatum as well. Aaron was doing a lot of product packaging and design and marketing for Washington Alternative Medicine, and then again for Dama. But I would sit back and help him with the marketing side of it and all that, and then educate myself on what they were doing with the New Leaf program, working with kids, working with parents of children and their doctors from the cannabis oil angle, and seeing how profoundly amazing the product was for the kids and for adults too. But it was really interesting to see how kids were able to use CBD oil for certain ailments.
So was it at that point, after you sort of were able to learn more about the industry and the products, that you decided like, hey, I'm going to venture out on my own, come back to the Valley and start Greenfield? Or how long did that take? And like, what year did you get started?
That I could see that happening back in 2011 as things really got going with the ballot, and we knew it was going to pass. It actually didn't pass by a great margin, but at least over in Seattle, we felt like, okay, this is going to go. It's going to go now.
What made you feel that way?
The energy,
just the momentum on the street
in Seattle. I mean, Seattle obviously it's the biggest part of the state. Doesn't necessarily speak for this side of the state in a lot of ways, but
that's true.
Just in talking with voters on both sides of the states at that point, we had friends in the industry. Felt like we had the energy to make it happen.
Yeah.
Felt like
you did.
And we did. It was like 56% of the vote, which it was enough to do it.
That's enough, yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just flourishing there now. I mean, you drive down the highway and there's just billboard after billboard for different dispensaries, and it's insane.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in 2012, December 2012, it passed, and then I just kept my ear to the ground and wondering how. I had a passion for it at that point, and wondering how I wanted to do it. Did I want to be part of a grow operation, like I'd been working a little bit with the Dama guys and seeing how that was going, or retail? And the owner of Dama, Dax, he convinced me that I didn't want to. Don't do a grow. Be a retailer. Be a retailer. Be the access point. And he was right.
What was the reasons behind that? Just the sort of hoops that you have to jump through to become?
Yeah, there's a lot of hoops. Well, there's naturally legal hoops and all that with regulations and getting the license and all that, but it's also very technical. It's not like growing tomatoes.
No, there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, even down to the wavelengths of light at what periods of growth you want to give the plants and everything.
Yeah.
Real quick, you kept saying Dama. Did you give us that acronym? What does that stand for?
Dama is an ancient Chinese word for marijuana. D-A-M-A. So, Dama. Cool. Dama oil, Dama flour. They had a whole. They're still out there. They still got a full line of products.
Okay.
And they were one of the biggest in the medical market. And they hung on to their medical license. They didn't flip over to their recreational license as quickly as I think they wished they would have, because a couple other companies took over the recreational market. And then when they jumped over, they were kind of the new guy in the block, even though they had been around for a long time.
Well, he pushed you away from growing and told you just to do.
It's a lot a better situation to be the access point for customers always coming to see you. They know where to come. They're coming. You got all the shelf space. So I'm not just Dom out there fighting for shelf space like Dax was. And with Northwest Cannabis Solutions and Fat Panda, all those guys are all fighting for shelf space all over the state. It was a much more stable venture to become a retailer and control what goes on the shelves and create a proper access point for patients and recreational buyers.
So what year did Greenfield actually get started then?
It got started conceptually 2012, right after it passed. I started thinking, what's this going to be? What am I going to name it? What am I going to call it? 2013 is when it got founded officially with the state.
How'd you settle on that name?
I wanted a name that wasn't in your face. I got to hand it to Canada for Life. That's a name that's in your face. If you're looking for cannabis,
yeah, you know what they do.
It's cannabis. It's Canada for Life. I wanted something to sound classy.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
it does.
a little more subtle, because we were dealing with a conservative little town here in Eastern Washington, and I thought it would be better, more friendly, a good faith effort to have a name that was classy. Canada for Life went right in their face with it, and it worked out for them. They've had a good successful start.
I just think that's
why I named it Greenfield.
That's just a better strategy in general, especially like when you start talking about the different strains of weed and products that you can buy. Like, I think as somebody outside of the marijuana community, like if I went into a shop, I would be more inclined to buy something that was called like, something that had a more relaxed title, like you said, than like Alaskan Thunderfuck or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Greenfield, obviously, it brings the idea of a field of green to your head. And I imagine pastures and pastures full of cannabis growing.
So you guys opened in 2013, you said?
Well, I found it in 2013.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you
that's
registered your business.
Yep, got that already, and it wasn't legal to open until July 1st of 2014.
Was that statewide?
That was statewide. That was the first day that they kicked it off, and that was if you had everything worked out with your local jurisdiction, get the licensing from the Liquor and Cannabis Control Board,
and that was really easy for you.
Yeah, that was one of the easiest things I've ever had to do in my life. No, we didn't actually open until the first time we opened under the city's moratorium, and that was June 27th of 2015. So we'd been we'd seen just about a full year of licensed and legal recreational cannabis stores that had the few that had been able to open in that first year. And we'd seen a lot of the rest of the state developing their zoning language and all that you had to get to before you could actually open a marijuana store. You had to add marijuana to the city's language and all of their zoning. Right?
Oh, right, yeah.
You've got your bars, you've got your alcohol restrictions and all that. Well, we have to have the same thing for marijuana, and that took a while for a lot of different jurisdictions. Clarkston did it. They worked on it. They put it together, but then obviously things fell apart with the city council's lack of leadership, in my opinion. But
yeah, and I don't honestly know a whole lot about that. I don't think I was living, or I just moved back or something around the time that all this was happening. What was some of the major issues? How did that all play out?
All played out. The city council originally saw it as this is inevitable. It's coming statewide, and so Aaron and I, and Aaron was involved at that point with Greenfield, Kelly Jackson, and his wife Julie from the Canada for Life side. We were all working towards getting all of our ducks in a row, documentation-wise, and all of our security systems, all that. We had a lot of money and everything riding on it, knowing that the city had just said, okay, the cat's out of the bag, we're not putting it back in, this is going to happen. And then all of a sudden, I think it was December 2014, one of the city council members said, well, we're seeing some of these moratoriums hold up, we're going to go ahead and give this a shot. So then they revoked the zoning based on the majority of the city council members at the time were very much against marijuana. They were just from that older era, and they weren't very well educated about marijuana.
Yeah.
So that put some roadblocks in place. But we kept going as far as the finish line of getting the state license, because the liquor board wasn't going to not give us the license based on a local jurisdiction's moratorium.
So, I mean, you mentioned that most of the city council was sort of digging their heels on this. Who is sort of on your side and aiding your fight on city council to get this going?
At that time, Brian Kolstad was the sole supporter of this.
Okay.
The one marijuana educated, intelligent city council member on there about marijuana. I mean, they're people. They weren't bad people. They just weren't very educated. And Brian Kolstad had to shoulder that himself for a couple of years, trying to educate these people, and they were not having any of them. They grew up in an era where their preachers and their pastors and their teachers and their parents told them that this was bad. And it was 80 years of bullshit from big corporations and government trying to keep illegal medicine that you can grow in your backyard.
Yeah.
And pharmacies especially don't want to see people growing medicine in their backyard. So that's what they had to deal with. These folks just came from an area where they did not want to be told that they were wrong, or that their pastors and preachers and teachers and parents were wrong about this.
How many people are on the city council
at that time? At that time, well, it's the same amount as we have now. I think there's 8. I think there's 1 per precinct. There's eight voting precincts in Clarkston.
So did you get an opportunity to go before the city council on a number of occasions and say, like, here, this is what I'm going to do. This is what we're about? Yeah,
we did constantly. I spoke in front of them, in front of the city council, the mayor, and typically a whole sea of supporters behind us.
Right.
And a few naysayers, too, in the crowd. But, yeah, that was a constant issue, going and having public communications with the city council, trying to educate them, trying to play with them. Come on, you guys, stop. It's going to happen. And we have people that want it. It passed in the city of Clarkston. 7 out of 8 precincts voted for it. Mm-hmm. And the city council members are telling the voters, no, you were wrong. You don't know. It's evil.
Of course.
The streets of Clarkston are going to open up. We're all going to die. We're going to go fall right into hell. And there was actually a lot of church influence behind the city council members that were voting against it. And,
Wow.
And I think they're probably going to their churches like people do and hearing from their congregations that support them. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. Keep on fighting it. We're behind you. And then, of course, inevitably, when the vote finally came in November of 2015, they found that they didn't have those votes, and they got landslided out of office. And
So in that process of going and speaking in front of the council and having all these supporters and some naysayers, could you see the tide sort of starting to turn for them? Could you see them starting to like realize, okay, maybe it's not so bad. It might be beneficial for our community to do this?
No.
Not at all? They just did not budge?
No, there were other council committees that had some supporters on it. And they had talked to us during special meetings outside of the city council meetings, and I could tell that they were kind of for. They were interested in educating themselves on what is medical marijuana, what is recreational marijuana, what does this all mean. But when it came down to the city council itself, no, they were not going to budge. They were never going to budge, and the tide turned on them. Originally, it felt like the local news media was in support of the city council and against the idea of marijuana coming to town. But then after a few missteps by the city council and some really ridiculous things were said and it was becoming laughable, then the local media changed. They flipped on the city council, which really put a lot of pressure on the city council. They found themselves alone in a room with no friends at some point.
So were you guys the first business to, after all this finally passed, were you the first business to sell cannabis in Clarkston?
I was technically not. I was the first company pulled in the lottery for Asotin County. Greenfield was the very first, and so Canada for Life and Greenfield were working head to head. And we had both at one point agreed, okay, we're going to open up regardless. Once we get our licenses, we're going to open up. We would have opened up on the same day, but one of my friends who was going to invest all money with me ended up getting cold feet and he backed out.
Ooh.
And so that cost me about 2 weeks. So Kelly actually was the first one to open up under the moratorium. And he opened up, I think it was like June 4th or something like that. And he was open for 11 days. Can't remember exactly. But he was open for 11 days. And then Todd Richardson, the city attorney, shut him down. And then about a week and a half or 2 weeks later, I opened up. And we were open for 4 days before the city shut us down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that just came from the city.
Through Judge Galena at the Superior Court. He put an injunction on the businesses at that point. Mm-hmm. So at that point, we kind of felt like we were dead in the water. Canada for Life wasn't doing anything. They were just kind of sitting back and waiting for I don't know what. And then my attorney said, we're going to go ahead and appeal this. We immediately appealed it to Division 3 in Spokane. And then lo and behold, a few weeks later, the city councils was like really thinking they had this thing licked, man. They got it shut down. They were feeling really happy. And all of a sudden, on the night of one of the city council meetings, I get a call from my attorney that the appeals court in Division 3 just told me to open up. They said, you didn't do anything wrong. As far as we're concerned right now, we're going to consider the case. Go ahead and open up and do what you were doing. So, boom. I call there and said, we're on. Get over here immediately. We're going to get all the product out back on the shelf. We're gone. And that was a fun moment for Brian Kolstad because I called him and told him what was going on. He walked in.
That'd be a fun day.
The city council meeting, feeling pretty darn good. Everybody else, the city council had just been debriefed by the city attorney, and they were all steaming hot. There was a pot shop opened up right now. So yeah, we led the charge on the legal front. Both the Jacksons and I were there for all the city council meetings and getting people really pumped up in at the meetings, and then when the tide turned with the Tribune. And they were exposing a lot of the ridiculousness of the city council. Then all the voters in the city of Clarkston pretty much said, we're done with this. We're done with the city council. If they're stifling this, what else are they stifling? They had those thoughts.
So there was a big turnover after all this in the city council. It wasn't just, okay, now your pot store is open and business as usual.
No, they wanted people in there with a vision for a lot more than just marijuana, and that's what they got. Everybody that was up for election that year, including the mayor, got kicked out. They were gone. They were gone, and then it just changed the tide. We had Skate Pierce, who's going to be one of your guests.
That's right.
was elected that year. He took over for Bill Provost, who was adamantly against marijuana. And Monica Beauchamp took a position. Monica Lawrence became the mayor. And there were a couple other folks that were just pro, let's get going. Let's have some progress here in Clarkston. Let's look at marijuana. Let's look at justice reform. Let's look at recycling programs. Let's look at a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. Let's kind of brighten the skies in Clarkston.
Did you envision that it was going to be this difficult? I mean, I'm sure you knew it was going to be tough, but did you really think that it was going to be this big momentous thing where there's going to be all this turnover in city leadership and that it was going to take that amount of time? I
didn't foresee that. I didn't really know how it was going to play out. I knew that we had some folks that were against it, but at the time when the city went ahead and changed zoning in mid to late 2014, I thought they had come to their senses and this was going to be easy. And then it turned into a bag of cats, man. It was crazy. A lot of fighting and all that. And it was a lot of epic moments. Like I say, after we took it to Division III appeals court, they opened us up. We were open for about a month while they were reviewing everything, and they finally said, "No, we don't have enough to go on. We can't tell the city it's wrong on this right now. You're going to have to take it up to the Supreme Court." So that at that point we shut down for a couple of weeks while the case went to Olympia. So my attorney took it to Olympia, and at that point the city council's like, "Whew, dodged a bullet there. They're closed down. They're shut down. It's looking good for us." And then 2 weeks later or whatever it was, I got a call from the attorney, and the Supreme Court in Olympia just told you to open back up. They're going to consider the case. They want you to go ahead and do what you're doing. So, yes. Then, of course, the city council was just steaming at that, and we were open for another month during almost to Christmas, which was great because it just added more momentum to us being a visible access point in Clarkston. It put more fuel in the fire with the Tribune. The voters could see how ridiculous the city council was being about this and telling the voters that they were wrong. And after the Supreme Court was able to review it for a few weeks, and we were open for a few weeks, they said, that we don't really have enough to go on. This really isn't our job. We're kicking this back down to the appellate courts. Sorry, guys, but you got to shut down. But at that point, we had already been through the November elections, and the mayor, Kathleen Warren, and all the guys that were up for re-election were landslided out of office. So we knew at that point we'd done our jobs. The city of Clarkston came and supported it. They did their job again. Or they originally voted for this. They passed it in the city of Clarkston. Then they had to do it all over again by removing people that weren't doing their jobs in the eyes of the voters.
Right.
And so after that took place, we were shut down until late January. Mid-January, the new city council with Skate Pearson and everybody that was in support of this got together and said, okay, January 24th is the date that you're going to be able to open. We're going to lift the moratorium officially. It's good to go.
Right after my birthday.
Was it? That's cool. So that felt good. There were some heartbreaking moments during the whole thing, which I can get into, but that morning of January 24th, we were going to open. I think we were planning to open at 9. I went out on the sidewalk. It was a Sunday morning. It was sunny Sunday morning. Plugged in my amp and my Telecaster and played Back in Black as loud as I could on 6th Street. And it was just dead. Everybody was at church, and I'm out there. Yeah, it was fantastic. It was kind of an epic journey ending with a little bit of AC/DC on the sidewalk that morning.
There you go.
Yeah, one of the most heartbreaking moments during that whole battle was after the injunction had just taken place, and Judge Galena said, "Sorry, but you got to shut down. Need you to go lock it up." And we'd already been open for enough time that some folks, they needed the product. They wanted the product. They liked having the access point. I got to the shop. I'm locking everything up and putting all the product back in the vault. And I look outside, and here's this taxi. And out stands this little old woman. She was in her 80s. She had a cane. She was having trouble getting out of the taxi. And she's walking up gingerly to the door, and she sees closed by court order. And she just sat there, stared in awe, like, well, what am I going to do? This is what I need. Elderly people are looking for an alternative to pharmaceuticals that they don't think are good for them, and they can't afford them. And this poor old lady, the city council just told her to stick it. You don't get it.
Wow.
And I just wanted to run out there and give her a joint or something, and give her a hug and say, I'm so sorry. I couldn't get the doors unlocked in time to say that to her, and she had to drive off. But that was one of the heartbreaking moments of this whole battle, was that the city council just wasn't listening to anybody with any kind of a health condition or any kind of a recreational or medical need. They just didn't care.
And especially after, like you said, people began to depend on it, and you're open long enough. So, I mean, in this process, over the years, there's sort of developed like a little community of dispensaries right around where Greenfield is. Is that beneficial to you? Does it create like a healthy competition? What's that feeling of all these other dispensaries that have moved in and around?
I mean, within a stone's throw, quite literally.
Right.
Yeah, that's turned out to be a nice setup. I originally wanted to have my store, Greenfield, be at the old the Stone House on Highland, which used to be Stonehouse Coffee, and of course the Stone House on Highland.
Yeah,
was
that's
kind of
hilarious.
a cheeky tongue-in-cheek thing.
Oh my gosh.
But this, and it was right across. It's right across the street from Tri-State Medical, where the whole spirit of this thing is the medical benefits of cannabis. It would be a perfect place for it, but the city didn't zone it for that. And it turned out that the place I'm in now, and the place Canada for Life, turned out to be, it works well. If you want to have a successful gas station, put it next door to another successful gas station. Everyone's going to come there. So it worked out. If Canada for Life doesn't have something, they would come across the street to Greenfield. All you got to do is walk across the street. You don't have to drive across town. It's not like if Walmart doesn't have it, drive over to Lewis and go to Kmart and see if they got it.
Well,
They were right next to each other.
yeah.
Makes it very easy. And then, and when the second wave of licensing came through in 2017, I guess it was, or 16, it was 16, and it was June of 2017 that Sativa Sisters opened up. We all thought, damn, that's just going to eat into this small little market we have. Well, it didn't. It affected it for like a month, and then our sales went right back to where they were. Canada for Life went right back to they were, and Sativa Sisters grew up. It was like a whole new market bloomed.
Wow.
When Sativa Sisters came in, and we were all pleasantly surprised. Not that we were not overjoyed with the fact that revenues were holding steady, but there were that many more people educating themselves and coming out of the woodwork and realizing that this is a good thing that we have here.
Right.
And that's on both sides of the bridge.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because that's where the majority of the business
So is there like a healthy relationship between all of you guys that like see yourselves as a community then in terms of your business and what you do?
It is. Yeah, it's still competitive. It was kind of down and dirty there in the beginning. And there's a little bit of bad blood there that I guess I'm over it now. But I've got a really good relationship with Sativa Sisters. When they came in, we became immediate friends.
Yeah.
And we all three stores support each other on a great deal. When we realize that an underage person is trying to enter the stores, we'll catch them, and we'll get a photograph of them. We'll send it to the other three stores. Say, make sure this person doesn't make their way in. Or when the liquor board comes in to do a compliance check, if they come in to see us first, we're going to text the guys over the other two stores and say, hey, here comes your underage cop. Be on the lookout. Because
Undercover
nobody
cop,
wants to get
yeah.
busted. Yeah, they send in.
Yeah.
They're not undercover cops. They're just employed by the liquor board enforcement, and they're underage.
Oh, they're underage. So they send someone in underage with a passable.
It's a real ID. It's always vertical, which means they could be minors.
Gotcha.
So that's why we don't. Greenfield doesn't accept any kind of vertical IDs. I don't think Canada for Life accepts vertical IDs. I don't know about Sativa Sisters, but if you don't accept the vertical ID, you're never going to have an issue.
Right.
You're never going to have to wonder, is this person really 21? Because they don't expire when you turn 21. You could be 23 with a vertical. But yeah, the stores are pretty supportive on that stuff. We try to keep, we endeavor to keep different things on the shelf so that.
And that's what I was going to ask is there a diversification of products that you guys each have within your different storefronts?
There is. There's so many. Your screen just went black there. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's all good.
There's so many growers, producer processors in the state, even though they're dwindling because it's tough out there. There's still enough out there that we can all have different things on our shelves. They're really good quality, so customers can get good quality at all three shops. There's going to be some crossover in the smaller the smaller designations of product for like edibles, and there's in the concentrates like wax and vape cartridges and things like that. There'll be some crossover. There's not as much of those out there, but for the most part on flower, you're going to be able to find different things at all three shops.
Gotcha.
You mentioned that you had customers coming in from across the bridge, and of course that's Lewiston, and of course it's not legal in Lewiston.
Correct.
Have there ever been any issues on I don't know, are the cops like trying to catch people, or for the most part letting it go, or how's that working?
As far as I know, any Idaho person has ever purchased from me smokes it in Washington before they go back. No one has ever driven to Lewiston with marijuana illegally, I'll tell you that.
No.
Oh,
Of course not.
yeah, I don't know anybody who's ever done that either.
Yeah, absolutely not. But if they did,
Yeah.
the cops know. The cops aren't waiting over there for them.
Oh,
There's nobody sitting in the parking lots writing down license plates and calling ahead saying, hey, this person just pulled out of this parking lot.
Yeah, well, and the only reason I ask that is because that whole sentiment with the city council members, right? It is like you said, a conservative area. So I mean, even Washington cops, not necessarily even people who aren't supposed to and choose to take it over the line wherever they get it. Even with Washington cops possibly trying to harass users, I don't know. They don't.
But really, the Clarkston Police Department and the Washington State Patrol that are here in the valley, pretty happy when things got ironed out. They weren't happy with the city council either.
Cool.
It's just a lot of paperwork for something that doesn't make sense to do paperwork for.
Yeah.
Frankly, the Lewiston police officers that I've talked to feel the same way. If they were sitting on the other side of that bridge, waiting for people to, let's just say they're going to drive across the bridge with marijuana. Everybody knows they don't.
No, they don't. You're not supposed to. It's not legal over there.
They would run out of paper. I mean, they'd have to have Potlatch provide them with more paper on a daily basis to bust that amount of people.
All the people that don't.
Allegedly might once in a blue moon drive across the bridge with it.
They forget it's in there, yeah.
Washington, or the Idaho State Police, different story. I've had one run-in with those guys, and it wasn't very fun, but yeah. They weren't very, very forgiving about it. And frankly, the Lewiston police have to do their job. If someone is driving around downtown Lewiston and they break a law, they get pulled over, and the cops know what the logo of Greenfield looks like. If they see a bag with that owl on it, whether it's from the glass shop or the cigar shop or the pot shop, they're going to have to question it, and they're going to have to do their job, and you might end up with a citation. But as far as I've heard from folks who have gotten citations, they're pretty lenient about it. They'll take the product, they'll give you a citation, but they're not going to ruin your life over the whole thing. Idaho State Police probably will.
Yeah. Cool. So, we talked about like a diversification of products, and could you talk about like what you sell at Greenfield and how you've sort of expanded the brand with the auxiliary shops that you've since creating the original brick and mortar storefront?
You're asking what I carry at Greenfield?
Yeah.
In terms of
just products in the cannabis arena, and then also you said you've got your glass stuff and then the cigar shop as well. So
the bulk of what you're going to find in the biggest market you're going to find in Greenfield or Canada for Life or Sativa Sisters is going to be the flower, the buds. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest market in there is the flower, and that includes joints as well, pre-rolled joints that are quite popular. And then after that, the next largest segment is going to be your concentrates, your dabs, your waxes, your shatters. That's just concentrated THC that customers will use. They'll vaporize it and inhale it, and it's a lot more THC going into your system than just smoking the flower, which some people prefer, and they have a tolerance for it. And then the next segment, I would separate out from dabs. I would separate out and call it vape carts. They're two separate animals, even though it's a very similar product. It's a different delivery system, and that's a high concentration of THC and CBD product that's in a vaporizable, disposable unit, and that's very popular. Beyond that, you get into edibles, which is going to be your next largest segment, and that's really grown. Early on, that wasn't a very popular thing for everybody because eating a marijuana product is not something that's easy to get used to. It's not something that's easy to regulate. You really have to find where it affects you as a person, because everybody's going to be
Right.
different with that.
And it metabolizes different in the body. It's not at all like smoking it.
No.
You create different chemicals in your system, and it's very different.
Yeah. People even still when they don't know, they'll ask how this is a 10 milligram edible, which is a legal single serving in the state of Washington.
Right. You can get higher in like California and stuff.
Yeah,
They'll
yeah.
load it in there, but that's it's not really necessarily a safe thing to do, especially for new users.
Yeah, it can be. It'll ruin your day. It'll ruin a couple of days.
It will, definitely.
It's not going to kill you,
Nope.
but you're going to be uncomfortably high for hours. If you do 100 milligrams and you don't have a resistance for that, you could be in a very high state of mind for about 13 to 20 hours. I've seen it happen. In fact, it's happened to me. But people ask, how does a 10 milligram edible compare to if I'm smoking a joint? Is it like smoking one full joint? Like it's really not the same at all. Your body processes are completely different. The fastest way to get marijuana into your system is to inhale it, smoke it or vape it. The second fastest is suppository, which some people laugh at that, but it's the most efficient way to get it in your system. It takes about 15 minutes to take effect, but your colon grabs onto every bit of that cannabinoid substance and THC and all the properties of it, and your body uses it. The interesting thing about it is you never get high as when you use it as a suppository. So you can take 1,000 milligrams, and up she goes. If you ate 1,000 milligrams, you would be in a world of hurt. As a suppository, you never get high. Your body feels like it's in a hot tub. No dexterity loss, no balance, no nothing. Kind of an interesting product. So then the third fastest way is sublingually, using tincture typically or other edibles, but let it dissolve under your tongue. And that could take about 30 minutes to take effect, and then the longest wait time is usually an edible, because it has to break down and get to your liver before it disperses in your body and affects the rest of your system. So yes, people keep those rules in mind.
Yeah, well, so what advice would you have for someone that's coming in, they've never smoked before, they're interested in your product, maybe, I guess it would depend if they had I don't know what you call it, like if they were looking to do it recreationally or medically, but what's kind of something you would suggest for new users coming into your store?
It depends on what they want to do. The number one rule when it comes to marijuana or really anything that's going to affect your body psychotropically or otherwise is regulating your intake is the key. Go slow. If you're going to try a joint, if a person wants to load a bowl and smoke some weed or hit a joint, regulate your intake. Don't take a huge hit like you just saw your buddy do, because your buddy might have a tolerance for it.
Yeah, maybe only just take a really small amount, wait some time, see how it hits you type of deal.
Take a baby hit. Don't hold it in. Don't hold your breath. I maintain that people get higher because they hold their breath for too long before exhaling all that smoke out. But really, if you just take a baby hit, don't hold it in, just let it out. It's going to affect you. It's going to grab onto your cannabinoid receptors. And wait 5 minutes. There are strains out there that'll take 20 minutes before they really hit you. And people make a mistake of hitting it, that they think, oh my gosh, my tolerance is through the roof, I got to hit this a few more times. And then 20 minutes later, they're off on a rocket, and they completely mess themselves up.
And so does that have anything to do with how marijuana itself has changed throughout the years?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How has it changed from like my parents maybe allegedly smoking in the 70s to going in and buying 28% THC?
It's hard to say. That's a very good question. It's a really hard one to answer.
23%?
Yeah, 23%. 23, maybe. So here's the thing, but you never really know how strong anything was back in the 60s and 70s. So people still claim there was this, epic stuff out there where there was Sensimillion or Panama Red or whatever, what have you, that would just blow your mind. That Colombian gold back then, you couldn't be able to smoke that now. It's so good, it's gone. But whatever. I've been smoking for 70 years, and I'm 30 years old. I get that one a lot. I've been smoking my whole life. There's the people that have these stories about how things were stronger or whatever back then. Who knows? But now that we are in this modern era, we've got better cultivating, better practices, better growing methodologies.
More stable conditions.
More stable growth conditions than and on a much vaster array, a sizable grow. And testing procedures, everything's got to get tested. Who knows if that's really 23% THC?
Yeah.
So what happens when in this market, what'll happen is the grower will grab the top of a cola that's really the most exposed to the light, where it's going to have the richest amount of THC, because they want to have the best number on there.
Right.
If you're going to sell your product, I'm going to be looking at that menu, saying, okay, what's the highest THC and the best flavors that I know are going to work for my customers. And so they'll take that top cola, send it into the test lab, it'll get that test result back, and they'll apply that number, that 23%, to the entire plant. When halfway down, it's probably 15% THC. And sometimes they'll have a lab test on something that looks gnarly, and they'll come back and it'll be like 17%. And so no one will want to buy it. No, I need higher. Like, my tolerance is way up. I got to have something over 20.
No.
But then they'll people that'll buy that 17%, and it'll probably have a little more THC in it, just because the way plants work. And they'll come in and say, man, that 17% just blew my mind when that 26% didn't really do anything to me. That's just the relative state of the market when it comes to testing. It's not real.
Yeah. So so maybe you shouldn't go in looking for a certain percentage. You should go in looking for other characteristics.
You should go in looking for terpenes, terpene profiles. When people come in, they want to get high. They just want to get high. Sure, THC will do that for you. But when you come in and you say, okay, I want to have that feeling of the marijuana, but I also want to be able to go and get my yard work done, or clean my house, or I really want to relax, or I have a really sore back and I can't sleep. I've got restless leg syndrome. What can I do? Terpene profiles is what you're looking for. Terpenes are the element of the plant that give it its flavor and its aroma, and it's also what affects your body into being more restful or more upbeat and social. So you're looking for, if you want to be social and active, look for terpene profiles that are more lemony or citrus notes. Those are going to be more uplifting. So you got things like super silver haze. Anything with a haze behind it is typically going to be more uplifting. It's going to denote a lot of those terpenes that are energy spiking, I guess you want to say. And then if you want to get laid back, you want to go into the more purple strains with terpenes like myrcene, which is also prevalent in mangoes.
Hops.
And hops, the cousin of cannabis. And those properties, if you're shopping properly for those properties, then you're going to get a product that's going to be less of a mystery. It's going to work for you the way that you want it to work for you.
Well, and I imagine another good thing to do is probably lean on an educated staff as a resource. So is there sort of a process that you go through for ensuring that you have like educated bud tenders that are going to recommend good products for what the customer's looking for?
We do. And there's several educational opportunities in the state. One of them is through the Department of Health's medical marijuana program, and a few of our folks are certified. And then there's another company called Fairwinds, who is also one of the first producer processors in the state over in Vancouver to be recognized by the Department of Health as kind of being a partner in the health industry for this stuff. And they've got a Fairwinds certified program now that all of our bud tenders have gone through, educating all of our bud tenders essentially on a lot of what you're going to get from the Department of Health through the medical marijuana program. So our bud tenders are top-notch educated retailers from that angle, and they also are all very good about trying the product. We get samples in, and we send out samples with them on the weekends every Friday.
Are they good at trying the product?
They're pretty good. I think I'm one of the only employers in the valley that'll fire you if you don't test positive for marijuana. You can't fake it. It's hard to fake it. I mean, I don't smoke as much or eat as much as my bud tenders do, but I do it enough to where I know what I'm talking about and how I can relay that to my customers.
Well, no, but that is very important, because if they don't know the product, how are they supposed to sell the product?
Right.
Yes, exactly.
So you don't necessarily have to have that certification in order to sell cannabis products?
No.
So that would be something to look for, I guess, as a consumer, to go in and say, hey, are you guys certified for this? Or is that something that you guys sort of show on the wall, like, hey, we're certified?
Our bud tenders have pins that say Fairwinds.
Okay.
Fairwinds certified. Not all customers know what that means, but what really is important is that our bud tenders, even if they're not Fairwinds certified, that they know what THC is, they know what CBD is, they know what the two do. They know the differences between medical marijuana and recreational marijuana, at least in terms of how I put it. Mm-hmm. And They know what terpenes are and they know how to educate customers on how to buy and how to shop. And that's what sets our bud tenders apart from others. And I think the bud tenders at the other shops are pretty good too. But yeah, that's what makes a good team is that kind of education and taking advantage of the educational opportunities that are out there in the state of Washington right now.
And you mentioned earlier, you talked about vape products. Do you have sort of a stance or a feeling about vaping in general, given the controversy recently over the health risks? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, and kind of what's the difference between like a nicotine vape and CBD or THC vape?
Mm-hmm. The products, of course, are completely different between nicotine and marijuana. When you're putting something into your lungs, in general, it's not necessarily a good thing. Whether you're smoking weed or vaping it, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're putting things into your lungs besides oxygen, come on, something might happen. You never know. I'm not saying that vaping and smoking marijuana is bad for you. People don't do it all day, every day. It's a delivery method for getting it into your body. But people aren't just sitting there like smoking cigarettes and chain smoking all day. Then that's just a killer. Mm-hmm. Nicotine addiction is a very bad thing. But where do I stand on the vape thing? I think that we need a lot more research into how the cartridges are made. People were thinking that, okay, these things are made of metal. Maybe there's some residual metal that's getting into people's lungs. And that, frankly, can happen. I see a lot of the nicotine, the kids and adults that are doing nicotine vape, they're choking that stuff out, man. They're pluming it. And they're having plume contests.
Oh, yeah. You don't
users
vape
don't
cannabis
do that.
like that, yeah.
Cannabis users don't do that. You're taking small hits at a time, just enough to get you where you need to be, then you're going to put it down. You might hit it before you go to bed, just to remove all of the anxiety from your evening or calm down your body so you can sleep. Nicotine folks are hitting this stuff all the time and heavily. So the more you do it, the more of a risk you're going to have that it's going to screw up your lungs. That's how I feel about that, and we definitely do need a lot more research on it. But I don't think the cannabis products, if they're done in the state of Washington and they're tested and it's done properly, you can trust that it's going to be a quality product. And it's not going to be as harmful than if you're going to buy it off the black market.
Kind of on that same vein, you were talking about joints, and you have pre-roll joints that are flavored. Do you have any idea what kind of flavorants they're using and what that does taking it into your lungs?
Yeah, a lot of those they're just using natural flavors. So, or even if it's like an artificial flavor that you're going to find in a supermarket product, they might be using something like that. I don't know exactly what they're putting in there, but if you're finding something like a grape joint or a strawberry joint, a lot of times they're going to dehydrate that product. They're going to dehydrate the actual fruit.
It's just fruit extract.
And they're going to load that into the product, so you're getting that full-on bouquet of strawberry along with the flavor, along with the flavors of the marijuana, it can be pretty pleasant. And a lot of times those things are very, very potent, so you got to be careful with regulating your intake, as I said before.
Hey everyone, just wanted to take a quick break to tell you about our new Patreon account.
That's right, OSP fans, you can now directly help us fund this show and get access to exclusive content.
For more information and to learn how you can support the show, head to patreon.com/oldspiralpodcast.
Now back to the show. So you were, especially at the beginning, really pushing the medical benefits, and that's kind of, I think, where this all started for you was getting marijuana available for medicinal use. Mm-hmm. Can you give us kind of the rundown on some of the? I know there's a lot, but can you give us a rundown of the beneficial uses of marijuana medicinally? Okay, kind of versus recreationally.
I got to be very careful about this because as I'm on here representing myself,
you're not a doctor.
I'm not a doctor. I can't make curative claims.
Sure.
The Department of Health and the Liquor Board won't allow me to.
Can I put it this way? What out there on the internet has been claimed? Mm-hmm. What do other people
claim? Since I'm not in my store, I might be able to get away with saying some of these things. But literally,
if you want to skip it, that's fine.
No,
we don't have to.
I think it's good to educate people with it. But let me tell you what I've seen on a doctor's authorization through the Department of Health.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm sure there's a distinction legally between medical grade and recreational grade, right?
No.
Really?
No, I'll touch on that in a second. But there's things like cancer is one of them. This is one that doctors will recommend it for.
And what about cancer? Is that just like aiding or like totally fighting cancer? Aiding the effects.
I'm going to say that it's treating symptoms.
Treating symptoms.
Again, I can't make curative claims.
No, I'm just saying. What does the doctor say?
He's going to say, you know what? You have access to this, and I'm not going to stand in front of your choice to try it. Let's say if you have cancer or any other kind of this is what the doctor's saying, or any other kind of ailment that you would like to that's on this list, that I can recommend this for you. If you want to try it, it's up to you.
Okay. Yeah, and we're not suggesting anybody do anything. Mm-hmm. We're always listen to your doctor, talk to your doctor about what your health and what you're going to do.
Yeah. So PTSD, cancer, there's like 9 or 10 different ones that they can check off that list. One is the most popular one is intractable pain, which covers a lot of areas of the body, muscular, skeletal, just about anything, any kind of pain.
Yeah, and I've seen people use it to help aid them in eating or help them fight seizures.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for appetite. We have customers come in that have cancer. And these people, through treatments, can lose their appetite, and they'll start to get unhealthy, and their bodies need nutrients. They'll come in, they'll get a product that's going to amplify their appetite, and they feel much better because they can go home and have some food and feel good about it.
Right.
So that's not a curative claim. That's just what I know people do.
Yeah, that's all we're interested in.
Now on the question about what's medical, what's recreational. They're literally, in my opinion, all the same. The quality of the flower is as good for a recreational buyer as it is for a medical buyer. Recreational buyers have access to oil that is pretty high in THC and CBD, just like the folks that are medically certified. The one difference in product is on the edible side, where a recreational buyer can only have up to a 10 milligram single serving unit of edible. Whereas a medical buyer, I think we can go up to 50. I think that 50 milligrams per single item is the maximum that the state of Washington, will allow for on the medical side. And medical patients can buy 3 times as much product per day as a recreational buyer. So 1 ounce for a recreational buyer, 3 ounces for a medical buyer. Same thing for your concentrates and your edibles, and liquid edibles and solid edibles. The difference in my outside, so there's a taxability difference. They also don't have to pay state tax, sales tax. They have to pay the excise tax as a medical patient, but not the sales tax. I look at recreational marijuana and medical marijuana as proactive healthcare for recreational buyers and reactive healthcare for medical buyers. The product is doing good things for a recreational buyer. Your body has a natural endocannabinoid system that accepts all of the THC, all of the CBD cannabinoids, and makes use for it in your body for healthy things. So if you're a recreational buyer, you're buying it for a proactive reason. You're doing it to keep yourself healthy as part of a kind of a daily diet. Look at it that way. Mm-hmm. Medical buyers have an ailment that they're trying to fix. Like they've already got something wrong with them. This is a reactive product over here. So those are the two differences as far as how I like to define them for people that think that recreational marijuana is just for guys to get high, go out in the river and throw frisbees. And
which it is for that.
Well, it is, but yeah. I maintain there's not a lot that we do in our lives recreationally that's not for our health, whether it's mind, body, spirit, physical, whatever, 100%. Mental.
Absolutely.
So if it's marijuana, it's gonna have a nice health benefit to your soul or to your body or to whatever. Mm-hmm. Again, not a curative claim. Those are just how I like to designate it and educate people about this is a recreational buyer versus this is a medical buyer.
Sure.
So just kind of moving back to like the sale and the process of cannabis, do you see a differentiation between like pre-legalization, post-legalization in terms of convenience and cost, and what is that to you? Like, was it more expensive to buy weed when it was illegal? Is it cheaper now?
It's like there's a convenience of it being available within business hours all the time. You don't have to meet up with somebody. But do you have any idea of like street prices versus retail prices?
I don't know what street prices are now, but
Or what they used to be.
what they
How did
used
you
to-
come up with your price point?
It has just evolved to where it is right now. Early on, when we first started out, there was a supply and demand issue. The first marijuana I purchased was over in Prosser at Altitude, and they had 2 ounce boxes, not 2 ounce, I'm sorry, 2 gram boxes of marijuana. 2 days prior to me being there, they had 1 gram boxes of marijuana, and it was from Monkey Grass. Was the name of it. They sold out of them so fast, it was crazy, and they were charging $40 a gram.
Oh, wow.
$40 a gram. And I went in and we were able to buy it in 2 gram packs because they were trying to slow people selling down or buying down. And I bought a 2 gram box for $70, I think it was. So 2 grams of marijuana for $70.
And what does that run now?
A 2 gram box?
Yeah.
$10 to $12.
That's a big difference.
It could be.
And that's a lot of supply and demand because you've gotten a whole lot more growers and facilities opening them up. So did that kind of...
It did, yeah. That was simply because there just wasn't very much product out there, and it took a long time to get it packaged up into the retailer. Now, it's readily accessible. A gram can go from anywhere from $5 up to... And there may be some for $10 or $12 still that are high quality, but you're not going to find anything beyond that unless it's like a moon rock with a bunch of oil in it and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as street prices, I would say they're pretty close now to what they were before legalization. What guys were going to get in their basement, but you can't put an exact needle on that.
No, I mean everyone was getting different street prices anyway. I mean, it all depended.
And different quality and stuff. And I think that's probably the benefit to the consumer is a more consistent product each time you go in. And not only that, but I think that the legalization of marijuana is probably really beneficial to the environment as well, because you look at some of the issues that they're having in California's public lands with these cartels growing weed out in these forests that just totally destroy streams.
Oh, and using pesticides,
they use pesticides, chemicals
they're
of all
unregulated.
kinds.
So I'm sure now it's much more healthy.
And you take away the risk of extreme danger. I mean, you're not dealing with crime syndicates anymore. You're dealing with your neighbor. You're dealing with somebody that's part of your community.
Yeah, it is much safer all the way around from the grow end of it all the way down the chain to the safe access point. Absolutely. Yeah, products being tested, you have to have certain grow practices in place that are accepted by the state. You can't use most of the pesticides that are out there. You can't use. There are a few water-based pesticides that the state will allow people to use, and that's all you get. And a lot of folks have such good clean grows they don't even have to use those. They can use bugs. They can spray it with tea and caffeine. Generally keeps bugs away. There are a lot of different ways that our growers are growing the marijuana safely and clean.
Well, and they're probably indoor facilities now, right?
A lot of them are indoor. There's still a lot of really good outdoor ones. There are. Even I have friends from Clarkston who live in California, and they have outdoor grows down there, and they're winning awards all over California with really, really good quality grow practices and harvesting practices and cultivation practices, the whole 9 yards. You can do really good stuff outdoors. You just have to control it a little differently than an indoor facility.
Is a lot of your product semi-locally sourced? Like, how far do you have to go?
We've had product is in there as closely as Hell's Canyon Cannabis out here in the port of Clarkston. Yeah, so
brother-in-law works for them.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, they
Hi, Dale.
Hey, Dale. What's up, buddy? Leonard, what's up, man? We've had some stuff in there from those guys in the past, and it's kind of one of those things that comes and goes. Some products will have some shelf space for a little bit. They'll go away, and then they'll come back. You never know. Right now, Hell's Canyon is over at Canada for Life. They've told us they just don't have a whole lot of product to push out there, and just to keep it revolving. I think it makes more sense to have them at one access point rather than two. You know, we'd all like to celebrate the local grower here in Clarkston, but if it's not going to move properly, then it's best to market it properly, merchandise it properly. Other than here, we get stuff from Pullman. We get Burnwell and a few others from up in the Pullman area. And obviously a lot of stuff from Spokane. including MJ Productions, great grower. Fat Panda, we just brought in some Fat Panda. They're a great grower. Quite a few different growers from up in there. And then obviously we get a lot of stuff from Seattle, Vancouver, Bellingham, all the way up and down that I-5 corridor.
And you can't get it from anywhere but Washington, right? Like,
Correct.
you can't go get Oregon product and
So
bring
you're
it to your
talking
store.
Vancouver, Washington, not Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver, yeah. Everybody wants that vaunted BC bud, but no, we get our stuff from Vancouver, Washington. It has to stay within the state of Washington's regulated traceability system. So it can't come from outside the state of Washington and expect to have it grown to the standards of Washington and tested to the standards of Washington.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a bummer because my cousin owns Uplifted Farms in Oregon.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, but it's in Oregon, so I got to go visit him.
Where's he at?
I don't know if he's still in the same place. I think it was near Bend
Okay.
last time I heard.
Yeah, there's a lot of growers down there with a lot of product.
But he's been doing it since they were medical, like
Yeah.
the mid, like the 2010-ish
Sure, or beyond.
or beyond.
Yeah, probably a lot earlier than that. One of my friend's brother lives in Eugene. He's been doing it since the late 90s down in Eugene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's been going on for a long
It's fun to talk to him because he just considers himself a farmer. Because I think a lot of it was outside. I'm not totally sure how his process has evolved over the years, but he just considers himself a farmer. He's got to look into the same things a farmer does and cycles and all watering and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, like you say, it's not like growing tomatoes. It's very technical, and that's
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I think that we're looking at letting people grow. Just in general now, like they're going to change a lot of it to make it legal for people to grow, but people are going to find that it's not easy to grow, and they're going to screw it up, and they're going to waste their money, and they're going to either go to somebody who can grow it, or for medical purpose, or they're just going to keep coming to a good access point with product that you can just buy, and that's the safest way to do it.
Mm-hmm. So, in talking with friends and family about doing this episode, a lot of them were asking me to ask you, like, well, when's Idaho going to legalize? Which I just don't foresee happening until it's federally legal. Do you foreshadow that happening, like, within our lifetime? Do you think that's going to happen anytime soon?
Yeah, well, I hope I see it in my lifetime. I don't want to die very soon. But I'm pretty sure Idaho is going to legalize it, and there's going to be a push for it. The first step is getting enough signatures to get it onto a ballot, and that could be tough. That's what we did. It's that whole grassroots, no pun on words, effort to get signatures, enough signatures to get it on a ballot, and then stomp for it. Stump for it, and get people to support it and get people educated. There's a movement over there right now, according to yesterday's article in the Tribune, down at the library, about Educate Idaho on marijuana, and try to get to a point where people are educated enough to say, okay, yes, let's sign this signature list here. Let's get our names on here. Let's support it. Let's get it on the ballot. Let's see where the vote goes. Once it's voted on, if it passes, you're talking a long time before we get local jurisdictions to get on board with zoning.
So they're going to run into the same issues that you did when you were trying to open up your shop.
Well,
Yeah,
kind of
exactly.
on that same
But it will
vein.
be slower than Washington.
Yeah. It
Oh,
would be
yeah.
on that,
Guarantee it.
yeah.
For sure. I mean, and it's just like you said, in Seattle area, their representation is sort of there, but it doesn't really speak for the rest of the state, which is the case for us in Idaho, where Boise has a different population with different values than the rest of the state, which is very conservative.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that might help that whole process is seeing the benefits of the Washington, Oregon, but especially even in Clarkston. What are some of the benefits to the community do you feel that legalizing marijuana has had? Not just that little old lady that was using it to get through, but also in terms of taxes. How have the taxes benefited the whole system? I mean,
Well, that's a hard one. We pay a lot of taxes. Monthly, we pay a lot of taxes. It'll blow your mind. But what's even more mind blowing is that we don't see more of it come back to our community, and that's kind of a bummer. Washington could do a lot more at the local levels of bringing some of this money back, and no one really knows where it's going or how it's being used in Olympia.
That's kind of horrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to go to marijuana taxes was supposed to go to law enforcement, drug or education, and drug rehab early on.
That's
And
what I
a lot-
heard. Yeah.
and a lot of things change. Legislators can just change things if they want to. Now I think a lot of it just gets funneled right into the general fund, and who knows where it goes from there. I know Clarkston would like to get a lot more of it than they are getting, and they should. That might change. You never know. But taxes is a good thing for any community. Educational wise, health wise, for Idaho. Sure, those are all great. Those are all fantastic things. I think that the biggest thing over there is decriminalization. Once it's voted on, and if it's approved, even though we don't have everything built yet for a retail or a grow infrastructure, it's legal. Like in December 2012, it was legal in Washington. We didn't have access to it, but if we had it on our person, it was legal. You can't get messed with. So all the people, forever as long as it's going to take to get Lewiston a pot shop, if it's legal in Idaho, they can come by over here, and they're not going to get.
Then they can drive it over there.
Then they can drive it over there.
Oh, finally, because no one's been doing that yet.
Yeah, I think it would be a big thing for the Tribune to like photograph and interview the first person to ever do it in the future when it actually does happen. Someone's going to drive over that bridge with marijuana.
Yeah,
they'll hold it out through.
Well, they should do.
And they'll be a pioneer.
They should make a hemp-based Tribune that day.
That'd be cool.
With hemp paper. Yeah.
That'd be. Here's your $10 newspaper.
Oh man. Well, this is so. You were mentioned THC and CBD earlier, and I'm wondering if there's some people listening that don't really know the difference. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot more coming up. There's been a lot more CBD products. It's become more mainstream.
Yeah.
But kind of what is the breakdown between THC and CBD? Kind of what it does. Again, no curative statements, but just kind of what's the idea between the two?
Okay, so a lot of folks hear the word CBD over the last few years, and they think, okay, CBD, that means medical marijuana. Whereas THC, that means recreational marijuana. When in reality, THC and CBD are both elements of the plant. Tetrahydrocannabinol is an element of cannabis that will cause a psychotropic effect. It'll get you high. Mm-hmm. CBD does not get you high. CBD stands for cannabidiol. It is the cousin of THC. It's a cannabinoid that is an anti-inflammatory. It can have stress relief characteristics to it. Those are symptom treating claims, not curative claims. CBD, it's not necessarily a painkiller. A lot of folks think it's a painkiller. Not really a painkiller. THC is actually more of a pain, not killer, but a pain masker than CBD is. But together, they do an awful lot of good things for the human body. And like I said before, the human body has an endocannabinoid system that was discovered by a genius physician in Israel back in, I think, the 50s, 60s, something like that. Your body has receptors that grab onto tetrahydrocannabinol. Those are called your CB1 receptors. Your CB1 receptors grab onto that THC, make use of it in the human body. Your CB2 receptors grab onto cannabidiol, pull it straight in, and use it for your body. It's best to have them both in the product at the same time, some ratio, because your body's going to use it more efficiently if you have CBD and THC in your body at the same time. A lot of the stuff that we see in this huge glut in the market of CBD products coming in, even in the Idaho, since it's not federally illegal because it's not psychotropic, you can get a lot of CBD products over there. You can just drink it, eat it, pump CBD straight in your body. Sure, it'll have some good effects for you, but again, it's not going to be as good for the human body as if you had THC in there to balance it all out and make good use of it. The unfortunate part is some people can't afford to do it because of their jobs, because it's illegal, because of the THC issue.
So is there, like if you live in Idaho and you want to use a CBD product for whatever reason, is there a certain brand that you could recommend? Because I feel like if I look at CBD stuff in Idaho and I don't have an educated bud tender or retailer to tell me what's what, I feel like it's just kind of snake oil, like those energy pills that you buy at a gas station or something.
That's a hard one, yeah, because I don't know. It's not regulated.
Right.
It's not regulated in the system that I know. It's not tested for by a Washington State lab. It's not coming out of the 502 network from a grower that's credible. So I can't really say, here's a good brand for you to, here's a brand that I know works, because I don't. I do carry some straight CBD products, a small amount. at my glass shop at Greenfield Glass and Goods, and we think that that's a pretty good quality product. There's only one in there. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but we only have one. We also have it for pets.
And that's what I was just going to ask you. Is I've seen that as this trend that's coming up where everybody's feeding their dogs CBD. I was going to ask if you offer that. Could you talk about like what that helps your pet achieve by taking a CBD product?
Yeah, would you feed a dog THC? I mean, does it?
People have. I mean, there's products out there that from out of the 502 network, the recreational marijuana network here in Washington, we're not allowed to sell products for animals or market them. But I know I have a tincture in my store. It's bacon flavored, oddly enough. I'm sure dogs like it. It's called companion tincture. It's weird that we call our furry friends our companions. Sure. But people, I think, have taken that product and actually given it to their dogs. And there is THC, small amount.
Well, I wonder,
small
just kind of, because our I don't know, I imagine a dog's metabolism and a human's metabolism is different. I just wonder what's known about how it affects them.
It's calming, very calming. So and it helps their joints. Like glucosamine, and to a different degree, helps elderly animals in their joints. CBD, heavy duty anti-inflammatory. So if you have an older dog that's really stove up and having a tough time, to the point where you think you might have to go put your best friend down, try it. Give them some CBD, give them some CBD biscuits, put it in their water, whatever, and it really works. I've seen it work pretty well with dogs.
Neat.
They're able to stand up, they're able to walk. It adds some more time to their clock. They can. So I would tell people, give it a shot. Why not?
Very cool.
Especially at that point.
Yeah. Well, we're coming in on just about over an hour. I didn't want to take up too much of your time, but did you have any final questions that you wanted to ask Brian?
No, I just know that you have different businesses, a variety of different businesses, the Greenfield Glass Co., the cigar shop. I mean, do you want to plug any of those and where we can find more information?
I appreciate that. The Greenfield Glass and Goods is right next to the pot shop. In there, we've got a lot of good glass, a lot of good quality glass for smoking marijuana. I know we've got other smoking accessories too, but we also have Black Rifle Coffee. We were the first.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, Evan Hafer and I are friends from college, and I was lucky enough to be the first retailer in the Lewis Clark Valley to carry it. I think after that, Billy Jeffries over at GNC and the guys up at the Firing Ridge started carrying it also, but we were the first. Very proud of that. We got a great assortment of all their coffee. And then we also have a growing selection of vinyl, which has been a great pull for folks in the valley, because vinyl has made a really cool
and local music too,
and
right?
local music and stuff. Actually, we got
artists, musicians, painters, visual artists, the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Marvin messaged us, asked if we had any flyers or stickers you guys could put in there.
Totally.
Yeah.
And Marvin's done a great job. Marvin's kind of a legend in the local valley scene over the last 30 years of music and art and all this stuff. He's an interesting personality. He'd be a great guy to have on your podcast.
Yeah. His band, Jody and the Fosters, played at my fundraiser one year, Smash Escape. So, great guy.
Yeah, he might come in and go straight up punk dad and spit all over the room, but
yeah, that's true.
He'd probably help you clean it up.
Well, I've been into the cigar shop, I think twice now.
Cigar shop's awesome.
Cigar shop's really cool.
Yeah,
when are you gonna get tobacco for pipe tobacco?
Yeah, that's my question, because I'm a big pipe tobacco guy.
I wanted it to be a tobacconist type shop. For pipe, I did say earlier that smoking a lot of like nicotine is bad. That's on the inhaling side, really, really bad. But you don't inhale cigars.
There's a lot of other stuff in that.
You don't inhale cigars. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of impurities in cigarettes. But you don't inhale cigars. You don't inhale pipe tobacco. I really wanted to have pipe tobacco. I wanted to have all the Valley tobacco enthusiasts to be able to come to a place that had good, upscale, high-quality stuff to choose from, kind of like CD had over
it.
I know. We miss
the void
Gift
that we
World
filled
so much.
Well, and as a person that buys pipe tobacco regularly myself, the shops in town just aren't good. I'm sorry, they're just not. So I end up having to get stuff off of pipesandscigars.com all the time. Mm-hmm. And whereas before I used to go to Gift World because he had great stuff that he cut and cured himself from the Palouse. The Puerto Rico rum was still, out of the hundreds of varieties of pipe tobacco that I've tried, my favorite aromatic by far. Mm-hmm. And so it would be cool to have somebody in the valley that could provide that level of tobacco, even if it is the bigger brands.
What came down for me was it's a small shop, and I've got 10,000 cigars crammed in there.
It's awesome,
nicely merchandised, and I'm really proud of it.
Yeah,
there's just not any room that I can make right now for pipe tobacco. And the main reason I didn't do it is because Washington taxes on pipe tobacco is skyrocket, just like cigarettes are compared to Idaho. And we're on the border. People largely buy their cigarettes in Idaho because it's so much cheaper. And they wouldn't, there's not, like you say, there's not a lot of pipe tobacco over in Lewiston, but people will buy it over there versus coming and buy it in Clarkston. Cigars is the one item that Washington is very low and Idaho is very high. That's what tipped the scales and made this make sense. I love cigars.
Oh, that's interesting.
There's a 65-cent flat tax on cigars in Washington, which is pretty cheap.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Idaho, it's 40% on the MSRP. So a $10 cigar in Clarkston will cost you $10.65 plus sales tax. In Lewiston, it's going to be $14.
Wow.
Plus sales tax. So there's an advantage coming over to Greenfield, Washington, 99420 if you're going to get your glass and your Black Rifle coffee and your albums or your marijuana products or your fine cigars.
Very good.
Yeah, and the shop is just really cool. I like the layer of mystique when you come in and it's like, whoa, this is really tiny. And then whoever's behind the counter goes, come into this door. And you go into the door and it's just this big space. It's full of awesome cigars.
Yeah,
it's
a lot
really
of folks
cool.
get confused by that. They'll walk into the front where all the accessories are and a few cigars and they think, wow, what, really? This is all you got? Until they go in the back and then it's
really cool.
The seized part and wow, there's cigars everywhere.
Yeah.
And I got some really, really good ones in there too. I'm really super happy about it.
Yeah.
Man, did you have anything else you wanted to plug? We cover everything you wanted to cover?
I don't want to. I just want to thank you guys for letting me come on and do this and vocalize some of the history of that. And I'd like to throw a shout out to all the folks that helped to make this happen. I know I get a lot of credit for it, and Aaron as well for pushing it through the court system. But really, the city of Clarkston they're the folks who came and made this happen. They had to vote for it twice, and they did it. And it showed the rest of the state what a small town can do when it really wants to. Because there were some folks out there who are still sitting on moratoriums that can't open up, and we were pretty lucky to have the direction and some leadership from guys like Brian Kolstad, and then Skate Pierce after he took office as well, and the support from everybody who came to all those city council meetings and were vocal and never gave up, never stopped, and made their voices heard. So, yeah, I want to thank all those folks. You've made everybody's life better in Clarkston and really in Lewiston, even though no one's ever taken anything over there.
Of course not.
No, yeah.
Well, hey, thanks, Matt. I mean, we really appreciate your time. We know that you're a really busy guy between your various businesses and you're traveling a lot. So thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Yeah.
Cool.
I hope that maybe I can come on one of these days again and talk about something else.
Anytime.
Yeah. I've heard rumors that you guys are going to have Joe Rogan on. I would really love to come on when Joe's on.
Joe and I go way back. We hunt together all the time.
Our schedule's just too busy. We can't seem to fit him in.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you.
I'm too busy whooping his ass in jiu-jitsu, so.
Oh, yeah. He comes to us for private lessons.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the next, beyond marijuana, the next big grassroots effort to legalize is going to be mushrooms, in my opinion. And hopefully one of these days we'll be sitting here talking about psilocybin mushrooms and their benefits to the human body. Because I tell you what, Joe Rogan's a big proponent of that, along with Paul Stamets and the work he does in Shelton and up at Washington State University.
If you haven't listened to the Paul Stamets episodes of Joe Rogan, stop what you're doing and go check it out.
Oh, it's amazing.
I've watched it 6 times, and I just pick up more and more stuff every time.
So
it's
cool.
crazy.
He got rid of a stutter in the most insane way possible.
That episode of the show is what got me into Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah, it's probably one of his most watched shows ever in the last few years of the Joe Rogan Experience.
And again, sort of a local tie-in because Paul Stamets, the mycologist, does some research at WSU.
I park next to they have a bunch of bee boxes. I park next to those. He set those up, so I think about him every time I pull in.
Awesome, yeah.
Cool.
It makes me want to save the bees every time I hear Paul Stamets talk about it.
We should get Paul Stamets in here.
You totally should.
That would be cool.
Hey, if he's going to be in Pullman, I don't know how you get a hold of him.
Well, I have a WSU email. I'm working on a degree up at WSU right now, so maybe he'll see that. And
hopefully he hears this and will come down and chat with you.
There you go.
That would be fantastic for everybody in the Valley at the old Spiral Podcast.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot. It was good having you in.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay, everyone, so that was Matt Plemmons. That story was very inspirational for us here at OSP, and whether you agree with the cannabis culture and the community that's been cultivated here in our area, you have to admire the hard work and perseverance that Matt's exhibited through this process, and also his partners, his legal team, and the Clarkston community in seeing this through. We really enjoyed this discussion and are very proud of the product that's been coming out of the studio here as of late, and we would like to thank our listeners for continuing to support us. If you'd like to support the show monetarily, you can subscribe to our Patreon. And if you're a business who wants to support the show, please reach out to us at oldspiralpodcast@gmail.com for info on becoming an advertiser. Thanks, everyone.